Hi, I'm Steve Carlson, and I'm running in the 2014 primary election for the U.S. Senate. In 2012, I was the Independence Party nominee for the House of Representatives against Betty McCollum. Betty's got a safe seat for Democrats. That disserves Minnesota voters because there is not a meaningful election. So I have shifted my focus this year to Al Franken. Senator Franken does not have a safe seat in 2014. But this year, I've identified another roadblock, a small clique that has turned the Independence Party itself into a fringe faction that is about to fall off the ballot if they can't make a show in either the U.S. Senate race or the governor's race. And so Mark Jenkins has designated a hand-picked man to appear to take on Al Franken for the U.S. Senate in 2014. I'm asking you to make me the nominee representing the diverse ideas of independent, thoughtful voters as the U.S. Senate nominee in 2014. It's critical. You're not going to believe it. Jenkins' choice says he's going to act as your privacy advocate against the United States government and its national security agency because he worked for the CIA and NSA. Is that what will protect your privacy and security, this advocate? And I don't know how the IP clique imagines it is supposed to work, but you can imagine what Al Franken or Stephen Colbert would do with that on Saturday Night Live. We need serious people in the Senate, and feeding the SNL crowd with fodder has to yield in the 2014 primary to the sober issue of stopping Barack Obama or whomever fills that position from using all the nifty new technology possible to interfere with your life. I think everybody can see that we must have limited government, not unchecked expansion into every sphere of American life. Now, Mark Jenkins made a movie on YouTube, like this one, where he claims that Minnesota's independent voters, 41% of the voters in Minnesota, who do not identify with the Republicans and do not identify with the Democrats, that we don't want anything to do with national issues. He claims that the Independence Party is intended to steer people away from the federal elections. I don't think that the 41% of Minnesota voters who identify themselves as independent agree with him. It violates the spirit of independence for him to presume that he can take national issues off the table for 41% of Minnesotan voters. Yet now he is handpicking a CIA candidate who has violated your privacy to protect your privacy. With leaders like that, you can see why this little clique would not do well with important national issues. This small clique of wishy-washy social engineers, whose greatest achievement to date has been to help Barack Obama push homosexual marriage on this state and attack the religious liberties of Minnesotans. Minnesotans who just want to have enough privacy from the civil magistrate to allow them to marry and raise their children as their conscience guides them, and to only participate in weddings that they choose to, according to their private and religious conscience. Now the Independence Party Chairman Mark Jenkins buys into the fantasy that the Independence Party can run in Minnesota elections, but never acknowledge the mess this nation is in and never even try to resolve national problems. Well, how about the U.S. Constitution and the Free Exercise Clause that allows people to follow their religious conscience? Is that a national issue? Violations of privacy, violations of religious liberties, and of the right to live a moral life, and intrusions into federal elections to steer voters away from national issues. These are all national issues that we care about. And now Al Franken and the Democrats want to repeal the First Amendment by literally rewriting it with hearings on Senate Joint Resolution 19. And it is a bill to amend the First Amendment. That's right. They now want Congress to control and regulate how much you can contribute in federal elections, and they want partisan state legislatures to control and regulate how much you can contribute in state elections. You see why we need the Tea Party. We need people to get outside the rigid confrontational system of elections dominated by national parties who try in every way possible to take away your right to vote. And now we have a third party in Minnesota whose ruling faction wants to steer you away from national issues or into the hands of the Democrats or their arch enemies, the Republicans. But by putting me in that general election, I will preserve a spot on the ballot and in debates for the 2016 election. Independent voters will want to have an active role in 2016. Independent does not equal inactive. It means unsatisfied with the two-party system. And I can take on Al Franken and the Republican nominee to restore America and even to save it from losing our cherished constitutional rights. If the First Amendment to the National Constitution were to be rewritten to put all the power in the hands of Congress and state legislatures, wouldn't that be the fox guarding the chicken house? And Mark Jenkins and his hand-picked candidate don't have any concerns about this. You see why I call them wishy-washy? We need all Americans to stand up for the Constitution and against those who would take it away. We are the rulers, and we don't want to go back to the time when there were just two parties on the ballot, the Democrats and the Republicans. If you vote in the independence primary for me, Steve Carlson, you will put me in the debates with Al Franken. I will personally put serious political issues to Al Franken. And if I can't get the questions into the debate, I'll step outside to the press conference and put them to the Minnesota voters and on my website, stevecarlsonforcongress2010.com, and on social media. Questions like, why are you letting Barack Obama give the internet away to other countries when America developed it and we're using it? Why are you letting Barack Obama shut down the space program or give it away to other countries? Do you demand of Barack Obama a foreign policy that promotes American values and a love for America? And what is that? Why are you unable to get other Democrats to take you seriously when you say you want to stop them from privatizing the internet so that it will no longer be freely available? Why didn't you inform the American people of the extent to which Obama and the NSA were listening in on our conversations, instead of just voting against it in the committee? Why are you trying to repeal the First Amendment, the bedrock of our Republican form of government and our democratic rights? Why did you write to the IRS to take action against supporters of Tea Party candidates such as myself, and did you demand or cooperate with the White House, IRS, and Department of Justice to bring criminal actions against these supporters during the 2010 election or after, which your party lost so badly? Why did you supply the critical vote for Obamacare, which is undermining health care and hurting job creation and the economy? Oh, and where did those extra votes you found really come from, after the Minnesota Canvassing Board found you lost the election? And after Al answers those ones, we will debate more questions on the minds of all Minnesota voters, those who think beyond what party they identify with anyway. How to really create jobs in Minnesota, how to really extend and improve health care in Minnesota, advance education in Minnesota. Because if I go to Washington as your U.S. Senator, I will work across both aisles to shrink the federal government in a transition of power and resources back to Minnesota and all 50 states. And you can't do that without cutting federal departments and federal agencies and programs. And that's what's called shrinking the federal government while growing America. It can be done, and we need all of us and America's best thinking to do it. Then there'll be real work to do in Minnesota government. We'll have our sovereignty back, and with the internet, there'll be no excuse for not making Minnesota one of the greatest states in the Union, something so many want, a true Minnesota miracle. Because I understand the importance of these national issues to you, and because I believe independent voters need a voice, I'm asking you to vote for me, Steve Carlson, in Minnesota's independence primary. We have an open primary system in Minnesota, and you're free to check my name in the U.S. Senate race at the top of the ballot. If you want to keep the Independence Party around for future elections, and if you want to take action right now to protect our rights and liberties and strengthen Minnesota's future by cutting back Washington, then go to your voting station in your precinct and look over the candidates for U.S. Senate and vote for the one who will make the general election for United States Senator meaningful. Not just eliminate meaningful debate from future elections by eliminating the Independence Party. Vote for Steve Carlson for U.S. Senate. Thank you. I'm Steve Carlson, and I approve this message.